your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles, to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a different time, a different day for one of our episodes of Agree to Disagree here at the TNAM Radio Network and thenewamericanmedia.com. I'm your host, Brian Engelman. Hello, howdy. Thank you very much for listening to this special episode about Ferguson. Not Craig Ferguson, the guy that used to have that TV show. But Ferguson, Missouri. Got a lot to talk about. And this is actually, this is one of the main reasons why I wanted a radio show to begin with in the first place. I always hated having these national stories break, or even something local that I really had I formed quite a few opinions on, and I wanted to have conversations with people about it. That's why I started the New American Media about 3.5 years ago. And it's been interesting. It's been way more work than I would have ever imagined. And I'm still only firing at about 10% capacity right now. And it's about all I've got to give. Although I really want 2015 to be something different, something special, something bigger. And that's where you guys come in, all the listeners, let's see, I don't know if I have all my statistics in front of me, but that's why the 18,485 of you who are following us on Twitter, the 625 of us who like our Facebook page, 625 of you or us, sure, because we are the New American Media. And if you take a look at it in Ferguson, we are the New American Media. Anyone with a phone and a live stream, guess what? You are the media. You're grabbing all the footage, all the angles. Don't get in the way of an investigation. You can film a cop anywhere you happen to be. Just don't get up so close that they think that you might be a threat to them. And we're the New American Media. And we want peaceful protest. But this is where it gets interesting, because I want to share this with you guys. I was at Woodstock. Not in 1969. This was in 1999. And by the third day, there was no running water. We were being price gouged on like $6 bottles of water. Nobody was picking up the trash. Nobody was emptying the urinals. I mean, this was like 110 degrees on an Air Force base in Rome, New York. And by the end of several days, because it was like a 4 or 5 day experience, by the end of it, people passed around these little peace candles when Red Hot Chili Peppers were performing, and sure enough, people were grabbing pieces of plywood and setting bonfires and burning things down. Yeah, you had a lot of aggressive music. You had Limp Bizkit, you had Korn, you had Metallica, you had Rage Against the Machine. Do the math, figure it out. There's a lot of aggressive people in the late 90s into rock music. But it wasn't all of us represented by the fires. I was there, and I distinctly remember, because they set this up on an Air Force base, and they had all these paths, and then they had the porta potties, and they had the water fountains, and the little shower facilities and whatnot. And they had the spaces, where you could walk in different areas. And I remember walking away from the main stage. It was Red Hot Chili Peppers. They were playing "Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire" as the place was burning. It was very surreal. It was, and to this day, I never really did the research. Did they all know how to play that song, and Anthony looked at the band and said, "Hey, let's cover Fire because they're lighting everything on fire"? Or was that legitimately going to be the last song that they played on their set? I don't remember. I don't know. However, as they're playing "Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire" and things are burning, I remember walking down a path and yelling at a group of guys that had broken something apart. I don't recall what. I had pieces of plywood, maybe a piece of the wall or a piece of the scaffolding, a piece of, I saw broken up ATMs. I mean, but by the end, you saw a lot of bad stuff, and we all looked at each other and said, all right, let's get the hell out of here. 600,000 people in 110-degree weather. We've kind of been getting abused with no water that the promoters promised us. It's horrible conditions. The promoters are pocketing all this money. They can't even get their volunteers on a work release day from the local penitentiary to empty out the trash. Like, it was ridiculous. But I remember screaming at these people saying, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you ruining this for everybody? What the hell is wrong with you guys?" I'm summarizing very succinctly. But I really tore into these guys. And, those are kind of the last people you want to tear into. The ones that are lawless, the ones that don't give a flying F. Those are the people you usually just want to kind of veer away from, and you don't need to go right through the danger zone. But I just remembered losing it, and I just remembered yelling at him, like, "What the hell is wrong with you guys? Why would you do this? You're effing this up for everybody." And we left and we got out of there, and as angry as I have been watching various cities not protest but riot and loot and burn things down, it makes me angry because they don't have the right to screw up my stuff. They don't have the right to put me in danger. Nobody has that right. I lean very libertarian on a lot of things, and you just don't have that right. And I yelled it to the Woodstock people in '99 that were screwing up the end of a concert and might have been able to put my life in danger had fires, got into the tent areas, or you could get trampled in a crowd that size. It happens at a lot of major concerts. So, I was getting mad that nobody has the right to make the First Amendment look as bad as we've seen it. You have the right to peaceably assemble to petition your government for redress of grievances. However, you don't have the right to put other people at risk. So that's why I'm really thankful to have this opportunity, because I wanted to share that story with you. I wanted to get your feedback on it, and that's why I started the New American Media, like I said, 3.5 years ago. So if you're not following us on Twitter, we're at American_media_. That's American_media_. You can also find that at thenewamericanmedia.com. On the right-hand side, there's a TNAM radio button. That's where you click to listen live to all of the shows that we do. But we'll send you links to that on our Twitter and Facebook feed. But on the right-hand side of our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com, you'll see the Listen Live button that says TNAM radio. Underneath it is our Twitter feed, so at American_media_ do that. Then right underneath that is our Facebook page, like our Facebook page. It's all right there. Sign up with us, because we're sending I'll tell you what, anybody that has not liked our Facebook page yet, you need to do it and scroll back. I think we send some just absolutely amazing stories out, and in no way can I take credit for that. In some ways, I don't know, I was going to make a pitcher-catcher analogy. That's not quite accurate. The analogy is escaping me, but it's because I'm following so many great independent journalists on social media, on Twitter and on Facebook, and when I just pop onto my Facebook feed, I'm finding amazing work being done by a lot of great up-and-coming new media people. So if you haven't had the chance to scroll back through our Twitter timeline, we try to put some funny stuff up there. We try to put some, definitely Cleveland sports stuff, because we do a show here. I'm the host of that. It's called The Unhappy Hour. I'm a Cleveland Indians, Cavs, Browns fan who's never celebrated a championship in my 35 years of existence. Buckeyes, closest thing, but that's 2.5 hours away. It's nothing like Cleveland sports. So you'll see a lot of Cleveland sports, but in between that, a lot of politics. It really just wants to be left alone and wants this planet to be a better place. And one of the people that we connected with early on here at the New American Media is Blake Walley. He's been a radio host. He has been a rabble-rouser. He has been an internet journalist. He has been one of those people in the new media. It's interesting, Blake. Welcome to the program. But it's interesting because I took journalism classes and I studied what it was like when Thomas Paine was printing pamphlets and handing them out, and not everybody could read, and they were getting passed around, and what the circulation would have equated to today. Going back further to Martin Luther and and then you get into Ted Turner and CNN with the cable boom. But you and I and John B. Wells, Coast to Coast AM, George Norrie, Ben Swan, Dan Johnson of Panda and Solutions Institute, go down the list, Mark Clare, Lions of Liberty. seriously, Luke Radowski. Name me a few names that'll probably be in the history books talking about this particular period of time, Blake. I know you follow a bunch. Alex Jones.
Right. And good to be here, Brian. Thank you.
Ah, yeah, sorry. Thank you for joining us. But what are some of those other names that they might be reading about in the history books for this particular point in time? Because you follow a lot more media outlets than I do, and I've always been impressed by that. But who are some of the other names you think might make the cut?
Are you talking about like strictly alternative media, or are you talking about, say, the Glenn Greenwalds and Cheryl Atkinsons of the world, or are you talking about strictly like, social media type of independent journalists?
All right, two-part question. We got Glenn Greenwald with The Guardian. We have Cheryl Atkinson, formerly of, was that CBS, right?
Yes.
Okay.
CBS Atkinson, yes.
Who else are some of those other big dogs that are doing good work?
Oh, I'm sorry. In that category, or are you talking about
that category,
the alternative media?
Both.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are a couple that come off the top of my head, obviously. There's some, decent people.
I think Judge Napolitano does some interesting stuff when you see him.
Well, he does, yeah, exactly. But he doesn't have the show anymore, so I guess he was a little bit under the radar in that regard. But he still makes an excellent contributor. But yes, he did have a excellent show there.
Alex Jones, he was one of the original new media people, but of course now he's at the top of that. Hell, just say top of that pyramid. It's a phrase I use unrelated to Illuminati Matters.
It's almost a different group there. You get a George Norries, or as you just said, John B. Wells, some of the big alternative media types. Or I don't know, I guess you could say Steve Quayle, or maybe Jesse Ventura, or David Icke. There's some of those bigger names, and then there's the kind of the new generation, perhaps, as you mentioned, Luke Radowski or Ben Swan, or there's several other interesting voices as well. You could say Adam Kokesh, I guess, or Mark Dice. There's a lot of interesting voices out there without going through all of them off the top of my head. But
the entire Rolodex. Yeah, who else do we interview with that? Because Blake was with us at the United We Stand Festival, and we got some interviews. Who else was there? Amber Lyon, Abby Martin,
right.
Immortal Technique. Those are all videos. By the way, I forgot to mention you can subscribe to our channel. It's youtube.com/The New American Media. Scroll around and check out some of those. Some pretty damn good interviews with a lot of interesting people. You'll find a lot of good stuff over there. And while you're at it, make sure you follow Blake at at Eccentric99. Blake is at Eccentric99. Follow him there. But I mean, you and I are right here at the dawning of a new age, Blake. We're here we're here at a point in time. Some people say I was born in the wrong time, or I wish I lived during this age. If I was only around in medieval times, or the Roaring '20s would have been great. But you know what? This is the only time where someone like you and someone like me could have the potential to reach every single human being and every extraterrestrial who cares to listen on the planet and through this galaxy. There's never been a time in history, recorded history, Atlantis and Lemuria and different incarnations of what this experience might have been on Earth aside. This has never happened before. I mean, how does the new media change the Ferguson coverage, in your opinion, Blake?
Changes everything. And as you're saying, you're Thomas Paine or maybe Paul Revere, or people that, if you wanted to get the word out, you had to have like your own printing press back in the day. Be a pamphleteer, I suppose. But now, and of course, maybe even in the 80s and 90s, there really wasn't much to do because you couldn't really influence a whole lot. Just an average person, you could buy a newspaper, you could maybe you could write a letter to the editor, and maybe that gets published. But that was about your only real thing you could do, I guess, to reach the masses. But now, with the internet and social media, it's a changing landscape. So now anybody can put out their work, and it's the great equalizer. against, say, the official mainstream media, which is absolutely dying right now in front of us. CNN, MSNBC, absolutely getting crushed, especially. So yeah, I mean, it's a different. There's a fight for the narrative when anybody could get involved. So it's a totally different world, totally different era, and guys like you and I can get out and affect change like we never could have been able to do back, when we were younger.
And as you've been watching coverage, where have you been gathering a majority of your information from? Are you getting it, from live streaming? Are you getting it from, InfoWars or through Fox or through Drudge Report, just kind of sifting for the best of the best or the most interesting or the most shocking? Because Drudge Report, let's not forget, Drudge Report, kind of as simple and basic as it is, it kind of changed the game. It really is a meeting point of people that are looking for the real stories that are worth talking about. You don't have to necessarily have the same opinion, but they're worth talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Drudge was one of the pioneers of that new media. He was somebody who was just a regular guy who found out that, yes, you can get on the internet and do your own news site. And after the Lewinsky thing, he really just exploded, and he hasn't looked back. And if you're talking about some of the places I go to gather my news, definitely the first place I go every morning when I start my news research. I do several hours a day of research, and Drudge is one of the better ones because it's just he gets everything from everywhere else, so you get a nice balance of stuff. I do like InfoWars is definitely the tip of the spear to me as far as the alternative media goes. Usually have I find the best journalism out there, not corporately influenced. Of course, just to kind of balance it up, I do like a place like Mediaite, which I think does a really nice balance of right wing, left wing. You get kind of a equal look at both, and they have a little bit more of an entertaining look. It's not quite as dry as it can be sometimes looking at the New York Times or I don't know, maybe the Wall Street Journal or something like that. But anyway, there's a lot of places I take a look, but those are probably a few of my favorites. Also like the Activist Post and some of their independent work that you won't find anywhere else too. I could go on, but those are some of my favorites. Brian, anything on your end?
Well, in a similar way, I'm like I said earlier in my little monologue to open the show, really good resources, really good people that are following us that, and here's the other thing. We can't be bombarded by anybody. I'm sorry. But if you have a story or a couple of good stories that you want to share with the rest of the class, tag us, on our Twitter feed. People are doing that more lately. People are adding, kind of shifting and sending and nudging some content our way on Facebook. It's like Blake used to do, and may still, who knows in what format, but Eccentric Perspective, a radio show on Freedomizer for a long time. And when I would listen, while I was working on other stuff, I'd be listening when I wasn't co-hosting, and you would always say, jump in the chat room and help me drive the news. And I gotta say, it's almost like the news cycle has taken on a bit of a living organism, Blake. Definitely when the grand jury came back with their decision yesterday and everything was being read off, I was pausing it, I was tweeting it, trying to tweet it as exactly and quickly as humanly possible, so that I could kind of disseminate the information as quickly. But other than that, a lot of this news just kind of finds me, and it kind of, like the good stuff, and by good, I don't mean good. Like, there's nothing good about Ferguson. There's nothing good about it. Anybody that claims that there's good stuff coming out of Ferguson, you're missing the point. There's nothing good. I just mean newsworthy, either interesting, fascinating, dangerous, or potentially dangerous, or sports related. The content kind of follows me, and watching Ferguson, a lot of questions pop through my head, Blake, and I wanted to get your thoughts because I haven't had a chance to pick your brain about this yet. what are your thoughts on choosing to release that information at nighttime? Did you feel that was the best way to do it, or do you think that might have helped cause some of the problems that we saw yesterday with all the rioting?
It's certainly possible. I really didn't get into it that much. I know it was kind of a controversial topic, last night when they did that, and they probably could have come out with the information a couple hours earlier. I don't know if that was, done intentionally. I don't know if I'm really willing to go down that road. But, yeah, you could certainly make a case, although, it is getting dark a lot earlier too. So I don't know what to say about that. I don't know if it was really that big of a story, but if you think that was, done intentionally, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, it was done intentionally, meaning there was an intent behind it, meaning just that's what was chosen to do. Now, as far as the motivation behind that, I mean, I'd heard that, you got to get people home from work after, the greater St. Louis area is what they were thinking about. They weren't just thinking about Little Ferguson. They were thinking about the greater St. Louis area. And, they wanted people to be home from rush hour, and they didn't want to do it during the day to disrupt all the school. The kids wouldn't have been able to go to school. They just... so I don't know that there was any good way to do it, but
plus they got to get prepared for because they know everyone in the country is going to want to broadcast it live, and they got to have everything ready for that. That's got to be quite an ordeal, and they need some time to set up all the the equipment and get the speeches ready and all that good stuff. So I don't know if it was anything to it or if it was much about nothing, ado about nothing, but I don't know. I don't really have a strong anything to say specifically on that particular part of the issue.
Well, but, so they do it at night. Fine. I guess there's no good time to do it. If you do
they
it,
want prime time and all the ratings.
Well, okay. If you're going for pure and by entertainment, I don't mean that this is entertaining. I just mean how many clicks can you get on your website? What are your Nielsen ratings going to be? How many people will be engaged in talking about this? How many people give that comment a thumbs up? Yeah, you're going to have that in prime time. I get that. And I'll
give you an example, Brian. I remember, and I'm sure you do as well, because I was in high school when the infamous OJ trial happened, and they made that announcement. And I remember.
Oh, wait, hold on.
School. I watched that in school. Did you too?
You know what I remember about that?
Everyone, all the teachers were like, "Oh, we got to watch this."
Well, what I remember about that is remember all those riots that broke out all across the country from those angry white people that didn't like the decision and the verdict?
No.
Oh, wait, did I make that up?
Yeah, no, I know where you're going with this, right?
Huh. Okay, sorry, I must have misremembered my facts, like a lot of those air quote witnesses who could, in theory, be charged with perjury. For giving incorrect information, who, upon confronted with the physical evidence and all of the other firsthand information and corroborating data and opinions and testimony, later said that they were lying. They were making it up. They were just saying what they had heard someone on the street say, or then they changed their story a little bit to not quite say what they were saying the first time. Yeah, so you remember watching the OJ verdict in school, like that?
Yeah,
that was
in high school. I think by that time, at least everybody had a TV in the classrooms, and that was like a big deal. Like, everyone stopped class, and we all watched the verdict being read for the OJ trial. So I don't know if you had the same thing happen across the pond there in Cleveland, if you will, across the Great Lakes.
Across the pond. No, I actually had one of those satire sites. It's not The Onion. It's another one that keeps tricking people because they're not familiar with the name yet. I forget.
Clickhole, probably.
Not Clickhole. It's another one. But something similar. And someone said, "Oh, that's it. Sarah Palin can't run for president." She said, "Ship all those illegals back across the pond to where they belong," or something. I said, everyone's making fun of her, and I said, "Oh, well, okay, that sounds like something." I go, But from Florida, that would be across the water to get back to Mexico. Anyway, I digress.
Oh yeah, and I should also specify for anybody listening. I was in to Twin Cities in Minnesota. Brian was in Cleveland, so I'm talking about across the Great Lakes, if you will, where where Cleveland resides somewhere. I don't know which lake that is. Is that Erie?
Yeah, that is Lake Erie, the one that was responsible for 7 feet of snow on Buffalo. Sorry, Buffalo. Hey, the Browns got to go play you. Browns got to travel to Buffalo to play the Bills this week, and the Browns are in a playoff hunt at 7-4. This is a little teaser for our sports show. And the Bills traded away their first-round pick to get wide receiver Sammy Watkins from Clemson. And if the Bills lose more games, that means the Browns get that first-round draft pick higher and higher. So the more losses, the better the pick. So beating the Bills in a playoff hunt and to improve a draft status, that's like a double whammy. It's a really big game, and they're going to play it there after 7 feet of snow. But yes, that was Cleveland on the shores of Lake Erie. Actually, that's the same place. Have you seen this other story about this kid with the airsoft toy gun that was shot and killed? I think a 12-year-old in Cleveland a couple days ago.
I heard about it. I looked into it briefly. Yeah, it was a pretty awful story. That the kid had taken off his the orange part of the toy gun or something, and there was a misunderstanding. I don't even know. I try to avoid stuff like that because it seemed like it was pretty much an obvious tragedy, preventable, horrible thing that happened, and I don't like to think about that or dwell on it.
Yeah, I don't
have
in
your backyard.
I want to get back to OJ in a second, but I do want to cover this, and this is just the perfect time to read you a couple moments of this because of being from the greater Cleveland area. A lot of my close friends live around there, and now they're blocking streets in Cleveland, just like they've seen in L.A. and Oakland and St. Louis, and now the Mike Brown thing has bled into this. I just want people to be aware of it because this kind of just happened, and it's going to be another big story. 12-year-old boy died Sunday after he was shot by Cleveland police while he carried an airsoft pellet gun. A rookie officer shot the boy at a recreation center Saturday afternoon after a 911 caller reported a guy with a pistol on the rec center swing set. And let me pause right there real quick because there's something called swatting, and you saw it down at the Walmart down in Dayton, Ohio, in a place called Beaver Creek, a Walmart that I've actually been to. There was a guy that picked up a toy rifle off the shelf, and he was walking around the store with it, and somebody called it in. Like, there's a guy pointing a rifle at people. There was no evidence he was pointing a rifle at people. Just showed him in the corners talking on his phone, just putzing around, killing time. And then a couple police officers showed up and just pumped him full of bullets, didn't ever, clear the area. Because it wasn't a huge crowded place. It was just like he was off in this corner. They could have sent people to block it off or, get on a bullhorn and say, it's the police. You're holding a gun or a toy gun. If you're holding something in your hands, put it down on the ground right now, or we're going to... No, they just came in and just blew him away. Not a second to think. And, that's what some people are claiming with the Mike Brown thing, that the police officer, Darren Wilson, was too quick to kill. But after, and I held my tongue a lot like I did on the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman thing because I didn't have the information. I heard a lot of rumors, By the way, where was Officer Darren Wilson's blown-out orbital eye socket? That was a bunch of crap. That was never true, and a lot of people reported that as true.
Yeah, I got to watch that Jim Hoft guy of the Gateway Pundit. He does some good work, but he's made a couple of major errors, and that was one of them that really damages his credibility.
And that stuff bears itself out in time, and that Blake, a lot of times, when we've co-hosted radio shows for a really long time. Way back, about a year and a half. No, I mean a couple years or something, and
right.
There'll be a story breaking live or something that just happened a couple hours ago, and if you go back and listen to a lot of those, I know many of the times I don't even want to talk about it because it takes a long time to sift through information and data before I come up with an opinion. I'm not going to blindly support Officer Darren Wilson any more than I'm going to support Ramos or Campione when they, killed Kelly Thomas outside of Fullerton, California a couple years ago. I'm not going to support Mike Brown. I don't know if he did anything wrong or not. Same with Trayvon, same with George Zimmerman. I've waited until the information comes out and made a call. But the concept of swatting, where you call in, you don't like guns. It's like Moms Against Guns or Mayors Against Illegal Guns. and all this stuff. There are a lot of groups that intentionally do this thing called swatting. They'll call the SWAT team and say, there's a guy with a gun right here. He's making threatening motions. So they'll agitate the police like, oh my God, this guy's ready to shoot somebody. You got to send someone here quick. You got to send him here right now. Send him. And then they show up all freaked out and they just start shooting. I've listened to the 911 call of this guy, and the guy says, I'm just scanning this article to see if it says it, but the caller said, I think it's a toy, but I'm not sure. It could be real, and that's why I'm calling. Anyway, I just want to finish reading this up here. Reported a guy with a pistol on the rec center swing set. But this swatting thing, sorry, I just want to wrap that up. Swatting is something that these anti-gun people are doing, but it's leading to deaths. And a lot of people are calling for people that swat people to be brought up on charges. A lot like Mike Brown's stepfather. People are calling for him to be charged with inciting a riot. And I'll tell you what, if you've ever seen the textbook definition of inciting a riot, watch that video and watch the impending video of all the cars and buildings burning in that city. But I digress. I want to wrap this up here. The caller told the dispatcher here in Cleveland again, the 12-year-old boy. The caller told the dispatcher the weapon was probably fake, but the officer who fired twice, hitting the boy in the stomach, wasn't informed of that critical detail, according to a statement made by Jeff Fulmer, the president of the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association, to local media. Quote, besides, we have to assume every gun is real. When we don't say that, that's the day we don't go home. End quote. The shooting at Cuddle Recreation Center on the city's west side occurred just days after Cleveland cops killed an unarmed schizophrenic woman outside her house by slamming her on the pavement. The Cleveland police have killed 2 people in 10 days, 1 an unarmed woman and 2 a 12-year-old boy. Enough, that's a tweet. But anyway, the 12-year-old whose name has not been released lived across the street from the rec center. His mother, told the media she was home at the time of the shooting, and blah, 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 blah. So if you look at a picture of what this is in the evidence box, I mean, it looks like a 9mm, I would guess a 9mm. It looks like a regular hand. I'll just tweet this out. If you want to take a look on our Twitter.
It looks like a real gun, yeah. And the manufacturer, they put like an orange piece of plastic in the front of it to make it, so you know that it's fake. And then they either removed it or painted over it, and it looked like a gun. And yeah, it was a terrible tragedy.
Looking at that right now, I can't tell that it's not a gun. I would not let anyone aim that at me. I would never do it.
That's why the orange piece of plastic is on there.
Well, you know what? If I was a smart criminal, then I'd put an orange piece of plastic on the end of a real gun.
No.
I don't know. It's not funny, but that was the thing I thought. Well, then, all right. So I understand that the police have to make really split-second decisions. But back to OJ. You remember when it was released? I remember vividly in my Spanish class having a conversation with Dulce, was her Spanish name. And yeah, she was very much in support of O.J. Simpson, while I took a different opinion of that based on the facts I was gathering. But information traveled a lot different in those days compared to when it does now. Very different, Blake, with newspapers and television. Do you see it as a good thing, what we have now with Twitter and Facebook, or do you see it as really potentially dangerous, where people are acting out more aggressively to get their 15 seconds of fame, and or, like you said with the Gateway Pundit, releasing information that proved to be inaccurate, and people just jump and tweet and they don't have a chance to think?
Well, it has its pros and cons, but I think overall it's absolutely a good thing. And speaking of that, I'd say something that has been very, very irresponsible that I do want to call out while we're on this show and throw up a few examples on this Ferguson reporting. For example, has been this group known as, well, they're posing as anonymous. I don't actually know what their affiliation is called the Anon Message, who have done some really things that I'm not liking, and they need to be called out. And
what are they up to? I'm not sure which group you're specifically referencing. What are they up to?
The Anon Message, I don't know if you remember back when the Ferguson story first broke and they knew that this guy had been gunned down and everybody was going, oh my God, and nobody knew who the officer was until the Anon Message reported who it was, except they got the person's name wrong.
Ah,
It
that's
was the
right.
wrong person. Yeah, that was the dispatcher, and it wasn't. Yeah, so
Interesting note with the Anon message, they have favorited 666 tweets thus far.
yeah, interesting to note. They're also fairly new. If you look, they've only got maybe 7,200 tweets or roughly
Yeah,
something like
7,800.
that.
Yeah.
And if you go to their YouTube account, it's only got maybe 5 or 6 videos. It's pretty new, and this is the problem with anonymous. Like I want to be able to be, I want to support, think that they're good and support them, and I'm a huge fan of TwitterBot. But you got to be careful with anonymous because literally anybody can pose as anonymous, and that particular account has been really up to no good, really riling up a lot of stuff with this Ferguson thing. Yeah, the first mistake they made was, of course, giving out the wrong name. Then they made big, bold claims. And in fact, I have a tweet here from November 19th where they said, breaking news, Darren Wilson confirmed to have ties with the KKK. More information will surface as it is verified. So it turns out that there may have been a connection from the KKK to a Darren Wilson support group. So, a group that was, trying to raise money for Darren Wilson may have had some affiliation with the KKK. I won't say that. And not that I have any problem with the supposed war on the KKK by Anonymous, but you can't make bold statements like that about Darren Wilson being part of the KKK. They're trying to drum up this whole racism thing. So that's strike 2.
Okay.
At least.
Well, and I watched video. Yeah, I was watching the video of the events unfolding yesterday in Ferguson and in other cities around the country, and I saw a lot of people wearing Guy Fawkes masks, the standard anonymous mask, who did not represent the good parts of Anonymous that I have seen over since they emerged. Whenever they first came together, what was that, about 2 years? When was the beginning of Anonymous actually?
It's a good question, Brian, but I don't even know. I would have to go.
It's just something that I feel like's been there.
Yeah, not that long.
To think of your college days and realize that YouTube wasn't around and Facebook wasn't around. It's like, no, it was I guess I was on Napster, wasn't I?
Yeah, we were on dial-up. Huh.
Yeah, ring bong.
Ooh, I got a 56K modem. Was it 56 or 64?
Dude, I can totally download this new Limp Bizkit song in like 6 hours. I'll go to bed and it'll be there, man.
Oh yeah, I remember doing stuff like that. You download stuff like simple little things, and you'd have to leave your computer on all night.
And nobody else could use the phone line at the time. Like, dude, I gotta make a call. Like, don't pick it up. I'm downloading something. I'll tell you. Here, I'll turn this light on when you can use the phone again. Yeah.
Those young kids have no idea.
No, but I don't really remember when Anonymous started. It was something with Edward Snowden. It was something with Julian Assange. It was something with the movie that came out, V for Vendetta. Over the past 5 or 10 years, it's kind of been this emerging meme. But yeah, I was watching a lot of people wearing these anonymous masks, acting like punks and thugs. Like, that's the thing. If there's no central command, you can't really control the message, and if people can grab it and co-opt it. And that's exactly what people said happened with Occupy Wall Street and with the Tea Party. That these were really good movements in the beginning, or at least had the potential to, or there were at least 20% of each of those groups that were really awesome people, and it got grabbed and taken and co-opted and changed into something that it was never intended to be. And I feel like we might have jumped the shark with Anonymous during this Ferguson thing. Would that be too strong of a...
Yeah, let me clarify. I'm sure there's lots of different anonymous accounts. I don't know if this isn't
there's a ton. That's the point. But
they have 96,000 followers, and they have been at the forefront of all this Ferguson stuff. And they have been just absolutely getting everybody riled up, and they've been putting out nothing but horrible information. I mean, if you look at their account right now, I mean, it just looks like it looks like the whole world is like the whole United States is on fire, basically, with protests everywhere. But nothing in the national news is confirming any of this, or I should say, any other news organizations are not. It just, I mean, if you looked at this, all the pictures here, it's just like protesters plan to march at New York. I mean, I know there's some stuff going on in New York, but it's not.
They're blocking
nearly
off
as
the
bad.
tunnel today, or trying
everything. What about L.A.? I know there was one in there's one here about from Boston, one here. They've completely shut down the 101 in L.A. I don't know if that's true or if that's
it'd be the 110
Yeah.
and the 10.
They did.
People out in the street, like not too far from where I'm at a different intersection.
Okay.
I recognize the intersection from the picture. And that's the point. How much of this information can you gather? Because if you watch, and that's the thing. Are you watching the network TV shows, or are you watching internet radio? Are you watching the live streams? Are you watching the Twitter feeds and the new YouTube videos that come out?
But even the InfoWars and the Vice News aren't necessarily. I mean, there's definitely a few things going on, but the way the Anon message is presenting it, it sounds like the revolution has started, and they've even put out tweets. The twits have put out the tweets that make it sound like there's a revolution over this whole Brown thing, and then they put out an absolutely horrible message the other day, which I also wanted to speak to, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Because the question becomes: is this just one branch or faction of something under the guise of anonymous, or because that's the point. There is no central command, just like Al Qaeda and this. Like you can't stop an idea, and that's the point. Like there's no head of the snake to cut off, so the body dies. Or it gets even more interesting. Are these agitators members of our own government, trying to lure all the flies into the spider web?
Yeah, good call, Brian. That's exactly one of my concerns, and that is something we need to keep in mind. Yeah, who is anonymous? We can't now. In a way, you could say that they've definitely been compromised, and how can you trust them when they're putting out a horrible message like they are? Now, I've gone over. I told you basically strike one and strike two. Yeah, strike one was, naming the wrong officer, so they didn't know what they were doing there. Number two was claiming Darren Wilson was confirmed to have ties with the KKK, except, but more information will surface as it is verified. Okay, which never did, of course. And of course,
well, but maybe on that one, just connecting it to a group that's gathering money and giving it to Wilson. You could have a socialist or a Marxist.
Looking it up.
Yeah, right. I mean, you could have a socialist or Marxist group giving money to Obama and not necessarily mean that Obama loves those ideas or ideals. Maybe that's
right. So it's totally unfair. It's unverified, but they're putting it out like it's true. And then they put out
or like they have pictures of him being initiated or something. Like that would be okay. Wow, he's in it. Like the police chief that did. Oh, look, it's him. It's him in the mask. Like that's not what's happening. That would be something that would change my opinion of the case.
Yeah, you've got a lot of people claiming all this racism in this case, and not one of them has ever showed, including the attorney for Brown, could not mention a single incident that could actually make this guy into a racist. But you look at a lot of the so-called liberals on Twitter who just think that this is all about race, and that's just really awful and untrue. And it's dangerous and irresponsible, especially when it's put out by people that are in the media. This has anything to do with race without any evidence whatsoever to say that. But the other part I was going to get to, strike three with this anonymous, that's just not including all the fact that he's been tweeting, trying to rile everybody up on these protests. But they put out a little video yesterday, another little 3-minute video, and they said, and I won't go through the entire thing. It's about a 3-minute video that they put out yesterday, but here's some of the highlights, and I'll emphasize some of it. says the world, it does one of those weird voices. The world witnessed the tragic
The
announcement.
world will witness the tragic consequences.
Exactly.
Whatever that voice.
Yeah, world witnessed the tragic announcement denying the indictment that would have put murderer Darren Wilson on trial for murder. Now, we as the collective condemn the decision. We are certain that Darren Wilson is guilty despite the lies and falsified evidence that the police spent the last 108 days perfecting. Of course, again, they give out absolutely no proof of anything. You're supposed to just take their word for it, I guess, these anonymous people. And they say, we will avenge Mike Brown and all that have died at the hands of evil. We are anonymous. We are legion. We don't forgive. We do not forget. And then at the end, they make a little threat. They basically, the St. Louis County or Ferguson Police Department or police anywhere in the area says, be prepared to expect us, for we are coming in force. And they sound like the Borg from Star Trek when they're talking about. I mean, it's awful. And this is just this one account, so I can't say anything about Anonymous. But that gives anybody good in Anonymous a bad name. So you try to. I kind of thought that I could look up to Anonymous. Like they were getting the truth. They had the access. They could hack everything. They would know the truth. So why are they putting out bad information? But it's one account.
Yeah, it's one account, and you know what? The messages coming from that account can no longer be trusted from messages coming from another account. You got to take it with a grain of salt. That's the thing. Yeah, it's very interesting because everybody has their own axe to grind. Everybody has their own agenda, and you just have to wonder. You just have to, Sammy Jenks, consider the source.
But then I look, that YouTube video that I found, and you look at this account, even though it's got 96,000 followers, they only had like 5 YouTube videos attached to that account, and that was one of them. And it was, you bring up what you mentioned before, is that a provocateur type of thing? Is that are the undercover feds trying to, they maybe for all we know, that could be coming out of the Justice Department trying to rile up the people into rioting and.
Blake, it's not Blake. It's not like from the IRS targeting your political opponents and Fast and Furious arming the bad guys and Benghazi lying about a YouTube video causing it. It's not like if Obama had a son, he would look like Trayvon, and it's not like at the beer summit that officer acted stupidly without knowing the information. It's not like this president and Eric Holder, who once took over the ROTC with the Black Panthers in a protest, in an armed protest. It's not like these guys are actually trying to stir stuff up in this country. Are you suggesting that?
Certainly not, but I wouldn't put it past them. Would they do it if they could and they thought they could get away with it? Yeah, maybe. Do they want to make Anonymous look bad? It could be a there could be a lot of different reasons why they could have done that. I just find it hard to. Otherwise, it's either provocateur or you got a bunch of just idiot amateurs that don't know what they're doing, and they're going to make Anonymous look bad. So, not so good. I'm not very happy about that, but I feel better calling it out because they definitely needed to be called out.
Well, that's a good point, and I was having a conversation, and I could imagine a lot of people.
And social media.
Yeah, right, and I could imagine that a lot of people have been having these conversations in their various formats and their various groups and social circles, and a lot of back and forth. And I was saying that the toxicology report said that Mike Brown was high as a kite, enough to cause hallucinations, and I'm like, I just don't get the aggressive behavior. That's something that doesn't make sense to me in this story. It just doesn't make sense. But then you watch the video, of the robbery, and you're like, oh, okay, I get the aggressive behavior, but really, who walks in the middle of the street and then goes and slams a car door into a police officer and then wrestle for his gun, then get shot, then run away, then turn around and go, I'm going to bum rush this guy? I mean, that doesn't sound like a high person. That sounds like somebody on PCP or crystal meth or some sort of methamphetamines. That's something that still doesn't make sense to me. But
yeah, no stoner, I think, in the history of this planet has ever acted in that fashion. There must have been something else in his system. I know he said there was some marijuana, but that just does not
compute.
Yeah.
Does not compute. No, and
Right.
that's what I said. So in one of my private conversations with a friend, I said, yeah, said enough. He was a lot of THC in his system, enough to cause hallucinations. I said, but don't trust me on that. I said, I'm only 95% certain I remembered hearing that. Look that one up, because that's the point, Blake. I don't sit here and claim to be the smartest man on the planet. I think the smarter I get, the more I realize just how dumb I am. So the more game show stuff I could, and I was actually on a game show, which is pretty funny. But the more game shows that I can know the answers to, or the more state capitals I can recite, or the more I can tell you about the 2010 midterm elections on a state-by-state breakdown of how many seats were won and lost in Congress, and whatever.
Dude, I screwed up my own.
The dumber
capital.
I get.
Yeah, I screwed up my own capital a week ago, or my former capital. So I know how that goes. Yeah, I've forgotten most of them too, including my home state. I actually ran into a couple from Wales, and they were talking about Minnesota, wondering where that was, and they said something about Minneapolis, and I said, yeah, that's the capital of Minnesota.
St. Paul.
And then 2 hours later, I went, oh my God, I screwed up my own capital, it's even on my frickin' name tag, and I screwed it up. Yeah, you forget the capitals after a while, or at least I did, and yes, I still feel like an ass about that, but yeah, what are you going to do? But let's get back to your point, Brian. I know how it goes, yeah.
Wait, is it St. Paul?
Yes, I believe it's St. Paul. Yes, that's where I was. That's where I'm from. It's even on my name tag, and I actually corrected people from another country with the wrong capital.
Well, and that's what I was getting at. I told my friends, look that up. I'm only 95% certain. Yeah, I actually did a report. Minnesota was the state that I got. We all had to do a report on a state, and I did Minnesota, and. Yeah, but, I told him, look it up. I think that's what the toxicology report said. Don't take my word for it. I don't want to be out there saying garbage. I don't want to be spelling my stuff incorrectly if I can catch it. I don't want to be claiming things that prove to be untrue. In fact, I'm trying very hard to get footage of the Johnny Manziel fight in Cleveland this a couple of days ago. I do have a source. And I'm really close to getting footage of this. Nobody has it. We broke the story. Really, we're running it with it hours before ESPN had it. But I can't make claims, and I can't say certain things, and I can't promise stuff, because if I don't have it, I don't have it. And I don't want to rub my mouth, because that's how you build a reputation. That you're anon. What's it called? The anon message.
The anon message.
And the Gateway Pundit, you got to be a lot more careful of any information coming from those sources, because they've proven to be sloppy in the past.
Yeah, Jim Hopton, he took a beating for that, and he deserved it. And that's where this is, that social media thing's going. Credibility is everything. And, this anonymous thing, I expected to just shut down at some point. But then, you got Jim Hoft, who's a lot of people have come out and said that he's like one of the dumbest people on the internet. And I think I remember the Young Turks even making a nice little video about that. And I know he's done some other things that have upset me. One of them, I think, was going after Jesse Ventura with the I forget, the Chris Kyle.
The lawsuit,
that controversy. Yeah, he basically rushed to judgment that Jesse Ventura was the bad guy, proven wrong there again. So he's done some things, and he's developed a reputation, and now he's not a trustworthy source. And it's too bad. A few months ago, I would have said, the Gateway Pundit's got some interesting information and puts out some good stuff once in a while. But now you got to be like, it's Jim Hoft. How much do you believe it now?
You got to get like triple verification, and that is one thing. Infowars, for the most part, they really do back their stuff up. Whether you agree with all of their conclusions, okay, maybe you don't jump to all those conclusions, but they really do at least back it up, and they're some of the best with their anecdotes. You know, their annotations. They will document and put the hyperlinks in. This is what we're talking about. Here's the story from the USA Today. Here's a story from CNN. You know, here's when the Guardian wrote this story about the NSA. I'm not making this up. You know, and it's like you got to constantly try to prove yourself to. You know, and they've earned a reputation. Like I said, you know, they're a much better version than some of these that don't really have the track record that Alex Jones has.
Yeah, they have to be very careful, because when you're contradicting the mainstream media, you need to be as well sourced as possible. And yeah, their staff writers do have a lot of hyperlinks to back up what they're talking about.
And that's really the only way to go. But I want you to expand on that a little bit, because you said credibility is everything. You were saying in the new media, right? In the new American media, credibility is everything, because that's your currency. People left dinosaur media because they didn't trust them anymore. So the minute alternative media starts to become untrustworthy, you're no different than the mainstream media that we can't believe, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, you start to, you know, people give you a chance, and you know, you betray that, they'll find somewhere else. So, yeah, you got a lot of different sources putting out different information. You got to determine who you trust, and you know, it's easy to get to the info, you know, to find that stuff out now these days.
Well, let me ask you specifically about Ferguson. Where was the National Guard? I just found it crazy. That's not an enormous place. Why were they not protecting those businesses?
Yeah, that's another story. I know that was a big deal, and that was probably shouldn't have done that. That was kind of like they were, you know, letting their guard down, you know, daring people to do something. But it's not a story I really delved too far into. I kind of really just on this one, I just really stayed close to the real basic facts. This was pretty much open and shut. There wasn't anything to it, and there were the only people that were really seemed to be getting fired up about this whole thing and calling for, you know, justice for Michael Brown. The sad part is those people didn't actually do any research, did not look at the evidence. They just wanted to go with what they wanted to believe, and they really made themselves look foolish. And this story is absolutely crumbling, has absolutely crumbled in the last 24 hours, I would say. Yeah,
I suppose that is true, because why would you say it's crumbled, though? Elaborate on that.
I just don't see a lot of people fighting for this anymore. I think once it's, you know, it's really simple to look at the facts here. Now that we get to see it, we've heard the verdict, and you look at the easy parts of this whole thing. You really just boil it down to a few pieces. I mean, this guy, this Michael Brown, he robbed a store, and he looks like a big scary dude. He's 6'5", 290 pounds. He made a strong arm robbery, pushing the clerk out of the way, and was ignoring orders from an officer as he was walking down the middle of a street. And the officer said, you know, get out of the way, or, you know, please get on the sidewalk, or whatever.
And by the way, like MSNBC said, they had this big shocking thing that they were trying to this revelation. They had that other crumb bum that was with Mike Brown say, no, he didn't say please get out of the road. He said get the F out of the road. Wow. There's a contradiction in the Mike Brown or the Darren Wilson testimony. Yeah, I firmly believe he probably said something like, get the hell out of the road, or something like what are you doing? I've never walked. Wasn't that a scene from Blake? What was it? That football movie. What the heck is the name with Latimer? Why am I forgetting the name of this? Where they lay down in the middle of the road to try to...
Oh, I know what you're talking about, the racist one.
Oh man. Anyway, I'll look that up. The case for you boiled down to a
Yeah,
few
it's been
things.
a long time.
Yeah.
I was in college when that came out. Yeah, that was a long time ago. 97, 98, something like that. 96 probably.
Maybe even before that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The Program.
Yeah, it was probably mid 90s. Okay.
The Program
Yeah.
from '93. There we go. Yeah, but there was that scene where he laid down in the road, and they had a couple people like imitating it, and that they had to
Yeah.
kind of cut it from the movie because people were imitating it. But anyway, I want to get back. I took you off on that sidetrack, but you were saying for you're not seeing a lot of people just standing up and fighting for this story anymore because the facts for you boil down to just a couple of things. Let me let you get back.
Well,
to those.
facts are the facts. They're indisputable. I mean, the guy robbed a store and he was ignoring orders in the middle of the street, and then he assaulted Wilson. You didn't see the orbital fracture like Jim Hoft was reporting, but he did have some bruises, so he was hurt, and that does fit with the story that the gunshot went off in the car first, and then we find out that this Darren Wilson had never used his gun before, and I mean, you start to add this up, and when you look at the robbery in progress, and you see how big and intimidating this guy is, who just basically, without any weapons or nothing, just grabs some stuff and push people out of the way. What are you going to do about it? This obviously was not a guy who would react nicely when the police arrived. So to say that Darren Wilson was somehow in the wrong here, I mean, it's horrible that this kid got shot.
Let's go one step further though.
Yeah,
it's not that this is the type of guy that wouldn't take kindly to authority. This is a guy walking down the middle of the street looking for a fight.
Yeah, he was looking for trouble. That's absolutely right.
Not just someone on the side of the road who he passed and said, wait a minute, that's a red shirt and yellow socks. That guy looks familiar, according to what they just sent out. Hey, guys, what do you have in your hands? F you, man. And kept walking, and then a chase ensued, and then during a chase, something happened. That's something that would make sense, at least in my mind. Okay, all right, they got busted, and they're like, oh, crap, I just wanted to get high today. Crap, I'm running. Crap, now I'm cornered, and I'm going to do something really, I could see someone in desperation do that, but this is a guy walking down the middle of the street. You only do that if you're trying to get into trouble, if you're looking for a fight.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I got into a Twitter fight with somebody who blocked me. Actually, speaking of Occupy, he was one of the guys from Occupy who made an interesting little cameo, or kind of a 15 minutes on the Daily Show when I think Fox News was trying to make him look bad, and then he ended up making them look bad. And when they were trying to go after the Occupy protesters, he's a New York guy named Jesse LaGreca, who's also a quasi-journalist who writes for the Daily Kos, I think, on occasion. But he ended up blocking me because I kind of went after him over the facts. And, he seems like a smart kid, but he seems to act like a useful idiot. And I said, the people that are outraged over Michael Brown, as I've said, have not looked at the evidence. And that's how sad this whole thing is, because once you do, it becomes really obvious. But I called him out, and let's see exactly what did I say. I said, let me pull up this conversation. He said, the jury was 75% white. The community is 67% black. I wonder how that one worked out. And he was just like, he's so sick of this racism, blah, blah, blah. And so I wrote back, and I get a little snarky. I said, exactly, they must all be racists. Or maybe you should actually look at the evidence first before you race to conclusions.
Oh.
And then he says, are you suggesting race had nothing to do with this incident? Also, how deep do you dig before you insert your head in the sand? And I said, you know what? I've done my homework, and I was outraged about Eric Garner. I said Michael Brown was a tragedy, but he was looking for trouble. And then, of course, he retweets that and says that I want all of Twitter to see what a clueless buffoonery that last statement was. And then I sat there and I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. So finally I went back and I said, I don't know how to respond to that. What clueless buffoonery are you referring to? And he says, Michael Brown was looking for trouble. I can't even. And I just called him out. I said, are you aware that he had just left the scene of a robbery and was walking down the middle of the street like he owned it? And then all he could say was, well, that doesn't carry the penalty of death. That's really all
that's
he
a
has.
huge backtrack.
Yeah, he didn't call out any of that stuff. And then I showed him the video because he said, I guess to clarify his, racist stuff, he said, oh, well, Officer Wilson called him demonic. And then I sent him a video. It's a 1 minute clip of that strong arm robbery. And I said, why don't you pause it at 33 seconds? Because that's when Michael Brown is pushing this clerk out of the way and coming after him.
Has him like by the neck almost, and like almost tossing him in the air.
Exactly, coming after him, intimidating him. And I said, what does he look like to you? And then, of course, he couldn't answer that because I said, and I came after him again today, and I said, does that look like a demon or does that look like a gentle giant? But of course, he has blocked me because he cannot answer that question. But there you go. There's a real-life example of somebody who actually is kind of a quasi-journalist for the left, somebody who's, maybe a smart person but acts as a useful idiot, and that's how so many of these people have, gotten this story totally out of proportion, and all they have to do is look at the very basic facts of this case. It wasn't like he was just some innocent bystander. He was involved in a robbery. He was just, something was not right, whether he was on drugs or what. And then he starts running down the middle of the street and disobeying orders.
Walking.
Either way, he's like
somersaulting, or doing a cartwheel. I don't care what you're doing. If you're in the Blake, when is the last time you ever recall walking down the dotted lines of a street with traffic?
Sorry, what's that again?
When is the last time you can recall ever walking down the dotted lines of a street while traffic is occurring?
I can honestly say never, unless maybe I was drunk way back, probably when I was in college, and I don't remember doing such a thing, but I guess I wouldn't put it completely past myself. But no, it's not that typical behavior. And but yes, I get. And
now, okay, so let's say in our I had a bit of a college experience myself. Okay, so maybe something like that would happen. Now let's imagine in our most drunken stupor or something. I mean,
if the cops would have showed up,
I would have been like, crap! I would have. I would have ran.
Yeah, me too.
I would have tried to dart around cars, go between a building, try to hit a side street, find another side street, hide behind a car. I didn't.
Hope your friends are slower.
Yeah,
Are you sure you wouldn't have tried to, assault the officer?
I would have went for his gun. I mean, who the hell does that? And that really is legitimately, and I mean, we're kind of laughing about it because it's so absurd.
Yeah.
We couldn't even imagine that. That is something with this story that just still doesn't make sense to me. Except I watched that video. But if there was PCP or meth in his system, I would totally be like, got it. But the fact that it was just, I got to look up the toxicology.
I think there was. I know they didn't report it, but I almost think that there is something in the toxicology report, and I know the feds got involved in there, and Eric Holder got his greasy fingers in there. So I'm not saying that anything was in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was, and they chose to leave that out of the report for whatever reason. Because, otherwise you're like, how could this guy just act like a complete psycho like that right in the middle of the afternoon like that? That doesn't make any sense. But, it's hard. I don't want to sit and, pass judgment. I know this is a 18-year-old kid in a rough neighborhood.
Look, I got it. Rough neighborhood, fine. But, stealing stuff from a store, assaulting the clerk, walking down the middle of a road, attacking a police officer, going for an officer's gun, getting shot, running away, turning around and going, I'm not busted yet. I'm going to get this guy. I don't get it. I just don't get it. This is from November 25th, CSN News. Michael Brown had THC, a behavior-altering substance found in marijuana, in his system when he was killed. August 9th, Ferguson, Darren Wilson, toxicology, St. Louis University lab report. Toxicology screen, which was done August 10, found 12 nanograms of... Man, I actually know a little bit about that with Josh Gordon's suspension. The best receiver in the NFL just came back for the Cleveland Browns, has serving a 10-game suspension because he was like .01 nanograms over.
Yeah, that was a joke.
Oh,
that was awful.
Such a disgusting thing. Anyway,
and you punished your whole team for it too.
Yeah, go Cleveland. Hence the unhappy hour name of the show. Although we're 7-4 and fighting for a playoff spot, so I digress. 12 nanograms of delta-9 THC, the primary psychoactive ingredient in pot, in Brown's bloodstream at the time of his death. More than twice the amount that in Washington State, where marijuana is legal, would allow someone to be arrested for driving under the influence. Delta-9 THC in the blood defines impairment. According to the report, seriously impairs judgment and motor coordination. Let's see, 5 nanograms. I just want to go through this real quick because I want to make sure. So I was right about that. 5 nanograms of THC causes approximately the same level of impairment as .08 blood alcohol level. Drivers with THC above tox report was evidence heard by Ferguson grand jurors. 70 hours of testimony from dozens of witnesses, including toxicology experts, over the past 3 months, and they decided not to indict Wilson. The evidence also included a crime lab report from the St. Louis County Police Department that noted one knotted clear plastic bag containing green vegetation, which a chemical and microscopic analysis determined to be 1.5 grams of marijuana was found on Brown's body at the time of his death. Hence, he wanted to roll those inside the Swisher Sweets. Okay. But...
he definitely needed to go home and smoke some of that and calm down. But I guess he didn't make it there.
No, he did not make it there. And, you know, did you find it weird that the president was giving us a lecture on the rule of law just a couple days after his immigration thing? Did you find that to be really...
Nothing surprises me with Obama. It really doesn't. You could make up some stuff. No, really, I could go into...
Like he's a reptilian.
If I went into a coma for a week and I woke up and you made up a bunch of stuff about Obama, whatever bills or anything without getting into alien stuff.
No, the alien stuff is the good stuff.
Sign any bill, make any speech, say something.
Stop it. Listen, the alien stuff is the good stuff. So if we went the David Icke route and he's a reptilian or a shapeshifter or an archon or something, you know, and Project Bluebeam was enacted in the second coming of the Mahdi and the Christ and Muhammad and all these things are occurring.
Well, I wouldn't dismiss it, but I'd have to see some proof and something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But what we do have proof of is the fact that out of the same sides of their mouths, some of these people, and you can understand, they lost a family member. Nobody wants to do that. And really, my prayers do go out to them, and my thoughts do go out to them. They have... you know, this...
Yeah, I don't like joking about it either, but it's like the only way to seem to reach people, unfortunately, and it should never have gotten this far. And you don't blame, you know, us or anything, not that anyone's going so, you know, blame the people in the liberal media, blame the black leadership that knew the facts. The facts and the evidence have been right there, right in front of your face, and that's all they had to do was take, you know, 5 minutes out of their day. And they could have gone, wait a second. It looks like, you know, we're basically having a witch hunt, going after an innocent man, going for an indictment, and the facts are not on our side. But I mean, they've just gone with this. So I don't know who you blame here, but I mean, there's a lot of bad people, especially at the left side of the media, that have been stoking this whole thing. And just being completely irresponsible. And I just pointed out that little Twitter interaction. That guy, you know, and all the months that have gone by, could not simply just do a few minutes of research because they just cannot believe they politicize everything, and they will not challenge their beliefs as long as it comes from their trusted sources. So it's like as long as MSNBC is on the same page with media matters and think progress, and and the Republicans are saying something else, or the conservative media, then therefore it can't be true, and they will not look at the other evidence.
And the evidence, I mean, let's face it, they showed what they showed. I don't understand the defense of this. You know, we should.
Yeah, but the way you look at the left,
we should all be upset. We should all be upset that this happened. I just don't get. I don't really understand. All this gentle giant stuff. Like, you know, there are legitimate cases where someone is killed and they had absolutely nothing to do with it. Like a little girl could be playing hopscotch on her sidewalk or in her driveway, and some idiot gangbanger comes by and fires a few shots into a garage, and she gets blown away at 7 years old. She had nothing to do with it. She had nothing to do with her own death. That I could understand. If Michael Brown was playing tiddlywinks in his front yard, if he was throwing the baseball in his, you know, at the park, and somebody came by and just shot the place up, that's one thing. But going and robbing a store of cigars so that you could roll up the bag of weed in your pocket after throwing the store owner into a bag of his own merchandise, and then walking out saying, you know what, screw that guy. How dare he come up and tell me I can do whatever the heck I want. I'm in the middle of the street. Who's going to stop me? Seriously, who's gonna do this to me? Oh, there's a cop now? Oh, you're going to tell me to get out of the street? Yeah, F you too, buddy. Oh, you're going to stop me? Come here. And then all of a sudden there's a fight. Maybe it was just someone being way too big of a hard ass, and it all happened really fast, and it was stupid. But to claim that Mike Brown was some sort of victim here, that he was just executed as an unarmed man.
Yeah, in the middle of the afternoon, in the middle of the street, in front of how many apartment buildings and how many witnesses. You know, if this guy was truly this racist KKK guy, you think that they would, you know, find him in the middle of the night when there was no witnesses. And, I just, you know, he was coming after me and I had to shoot him. I mean, this was, you know, so easy to see, and it just this huge media hype about it. And then the audacity by those people on the left side of the media who are, you know, saying this has anything to do with racism, and they have absolutely no facts to back it up, is dangerous and irresponsible. And look what you slapped the black community in the face. And then, you know, and you try to be, in the same token, you also want to be, you know, intellectually honest. There have been some other cases that have been, you know, I bring up the Eric Garner case.
Choked to death by a police officer. Okay, that looked ridiculous. Now, that was another very big guy, but, you know, to jump on top of him and drag him down by the neck like that, I guess, you know, he didn't pull out a firearm to do it, but it...
Yeah, now, if these people in New York that are whatever, I don't know if they're shutting the Brooklyn Bridge down or whatever that's going on, but, I mean, if they were out there protesting for, you know, Eric Garner, because it looks like the evidence was going his way, you know, I'd be thinking about going to New York and joining him. But this whole thing going on with Michael Brown, I'm sorry, it is a terrible tragedy, but this isn't the right cause, and this should not be happening. And
yeah, Ted Nugent put out a very interesting tweet. Once again, it's the reason why you need to spell check and do some grammar check before you hit send. You know, try not to tweet as fast as you're thinking. You can't, and it just looks stupid when something comes out. However, the point of it was, well, you know, anyway. But he also tweeted out this video from Chris Rock. I'm not going to play it necessarily here. You know what? I really should play that.
Play OJ, I understand, because I think I forgot to mention that when you were talking about OJ earlier, that would be a good clip to consult. Not that
I'm not...
not specifically endorsing anything. I'm just saying that people should listen to it. I'm sure they probably already have. Not that I'm
I'm not
endorsing
saying it was
one way or
okay
another.
for OJ to kill her, but I understand.
Right.
Yeah, that one was rough. But no, it was let me see. It was Chris Rock, how to avoid
Oh, getting beat up by the cops. Or
Yeah.
something? That was on his old HBO show. That was hilarious.
Here,
That was
I'm gonna.
a great clip.
I think it's right here. I'm just gonna play it. Go. Great work. Buy his DVDs. Da 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 da. Consider this an advertisement, a free advertisement for
Right.
him. But yeah, this is Chris Rock. How to avoid getting your ass kicked by the police.
People in the black community, myself, often worry that we might be a victim of police brutality. So, as a public service, the Chris Rock Show proudly presents this educational video.
How not to get your ass kicked by the police. It says.
Have you ever been face to face with a police officer and wondered, is he about to kick my ass? Well, wonder no more. If you follow these easy tips, you'll be fine. First, obey the law. Laws were made for a reason. Think of them as hints. You've heard people say, man, I wouldn't do that shit if I was you. Well, here's some of that shit. Carjacking, armed robbery, arson, selling drugs, buying drugs, stabbing, shooting. You probably won't get your ass kicked if you just use common sense. If you jump a subway turnstile, you might just get off with a warning from the police. But if you jump a turnstile carrying a loaded gun and smoking a joint, then maybe you need your ass kicked.
And the video of
We
10
all know
cops
what
beating
happened
him.
to Rodney King. But Rodney wouldn't have got his ass kicked if he had just followed this simple tip. When you see flashing police lights in your mirror, stop immediately. Everybody knows, if the police have to come and get you, they're bringing an ass kicking with them. Here's a no-brainer. If you're listening to loud rap music, turn that shit off. Blasting "fuck the police" while you're getting pulled over by the police is just ignorant. When an officer approaches your car, be polite.
Is there a problem, officer?
Yes.
And stay in your car with your hands on the wheel.
What the fuck you want, motherfucker?
Unless you want your ass kicked.
This is so.
Want to give a friend a ride?
Ugh.
Not so fast. Your friend might be crazy. Now, before you let your friend in your car, ask them these questions.
He's patting
Do
him
you have
down.
a gun? Do you have drugs? Do you have any warrants? And in case you do get pulled over by the cops,
License and registration, please.
remind your friend to do this one thing. Shut the fuck up.
Man, don't give him shit. What the fuck you want?
And a beat down.
If you have to give a friend a ride, get a white friend. A white friend can be the difference between a ticket and a bullet in the ass.
Not a ticket.
Here's a tip you should never forget. If your woman is mad at you, leave her at home. Because a mad woman will say anything.
He got weed! He got weed!
If your woman is mad at you, there's nothing she'd like to see more than you getting your ass kicked.
That's right! Kick his motherfucking ass! Take a dummy, shut up, no more! Take a seat, too! He got weed! He got weed!
Now let's review. Obey the law. Use common sense. Stop immediately. Turn that shit off. Be polite. Shut the fuck up. Get a white friend. And last but not least, don't ride with a mad woman. If you follow these simple pointers, you probably won't get your ass kicked by the police.
Oh, Blake.
Yeah, classic stuff.
I mean, what more needs to be said?
Yeah, that was several years ago, but it stayed the same. I guess they didn't get that memo. But like I said, I don't like making jokes about this or anything. But yeah, it's unfortunate that it was totally preventable. It never should have happened. And Officer Wilson, despite all the bad press, you find out that it's the first time he's ever even used his gun. I mean, he really wasn't that kind of a guy. He wasn't the monster they tried to make him out to be. And yeah, when you look at the robbery footage, you can tell that was just minutes before his encounter with Wilson. Poor Wilson, got stuck in that horrible situation, and it was either him or Michael Brown, and it ended in a terrible tragedy. But there's no reason for all of the rioting and anything like that. I think this story has really lost its momentum. Going forward, I don't see how they're going to. What else they can even do at this point?
I think you make a good point about that losing momentum. But I think it's important we try to tie up as many loose ends as we can here. This one from the Smoking Gun, it says, included in the grand jury material released tonight this is from yesterday, after the announcement that no charges would be filed in the Michael Brown killing, is a handwritten witness account stating that the teenager charged at Officer Wilson, quote, like a football player, head down, end quote. The unidentified witness wrote that the 18-year-old Brown, quote, has his arms out with attitude while the cop just stood there. The witness added, dang if that kid didn't start running right at the cop like a football player, head down. The witness told of hearing 3 bangs, but the big kid wouldn't stop. The witness's account of the unarmed Brown charging Wilson even after he'd been shot in the hand during a struggle with the cop's patrol car supports the officer's contention that he fired a series of shots as Brown bore down on him. During the September 16th grand jury testimony, Wilson, 28, recounted how he tussled with Brown when the teenager grabbed for his gun while lunging into the squad car. As they fought over the weapon, Wilson testified, the teenager taunted him, yelling, "You're too much of a pussy to shoot me." Wilson told the grand jury that he felt Brown's fingers try to get inside the trigger guard with my finger. He added, I distinctly remember envisioning a bullet going into my leg. I thought that was the next step. Testifying that he thought Brown, seen it left, would kill me if he gets a hold of his gun, Wilson said that he discharged the weapon inside the cruiser. The gunshot, he added, kind of startled him and me at the same time. The teenager then looked up at me and had the most intense, aggressive face. Wilson recalled, quote, the only way I can describe it, it looks like a demon. That's how angry he looked, end quote. Brown, Wilson testified, then raised his arms and punched him in the face. Wilson also gave grand jurors another vivid description of Brown, recalling when he first placed his hand on the teenager's arms. When the 6'4", 292-pound Brown was alongside his patrol car, Wilson testified that, quote, I felt like a 5-year-old holding on to Hulk Hogan. The cop added, Hulk Hogan, that's just how big he felt and how small I felt just from grasping his arm. Reading this testimony, the witness, dang if that kid didn't just put his head down and charge the cop like running at the cop like a football player. He looked like a demon. That's how angry he looked. He looked pretty angry in that video from a few minutes before, throwing, the shop owner around. And I think it's good to document as much of the relevant information now while it's fresh that we can. And yeah, I think that we will probably move past this. I mean, unless it's a foregone conclusion, but I think there are some people that are emotionally invested in this and still want to try to milk some stuff out of it. I guess time will tell, right, Blake?
Yeah, like I said, they can try, but I mean, the evidence is so bad. I mean, I was even just watching Hannity earlier, and I'm not, picking sides there, but he absolutely destroyed the lawyer for Michael Brown. So, I mean, he really made him look bad. There's just nothing. They have nothing, no credibility, and nothing to stand on. All the evidence is against Michael Brown. This never should have been a big story. So now it's time to start. You're talking about credibility in the media. Well, all of these people need to start looking at all the race baiters and why did this become such a big story? Why did you make the look what they did to the black community. All these black leaders, going after the wrong cause. Why are they? Why this story? what were they trying to accomplish here? You know, it's one thing if they were fighting for Eric Garner. It's another thing when you pick Michael Brown and the facts are against you and the people are in the dark and they haven't seen the evidence and you're withholding it from them and they're basically trusting you. They're trusting their media. They're trusting their sources and their sources basically sold them out. But a lot of the sources, as I've said, have already had their minds up right in the beginning. They wanted to believe a certain narrative, and we could even point back to somebody we like and somebody we mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast that we interviewed. Even Abby Martin, I called her out on Twitter because she made. Let's see if I can find out exactly what I said.
What was she up to?
Who I do like. I'll tell you exactly what she said. She said, "Weird how many people who rally against the police state always take the side of cops every time they kill unarmed black people." And I even had to call out one of my own, and I said, "Love you, Abby, but you couldn't be more wrong. Case in point, the huge difference between Michael Brown and Eric Garner." And so, yeah, I've even seen some other voices I like who just seem to, they want to believe that there's whole, like, you know, the police state or that it's is this racist cops beating up black people. And, you know, we can all agree that there have been problems, but in this particular case, Wilson versus Brown is absolutely the evidence is just absolutely overwhelming. This shouldn't have even been a media story in the first place.
Yeah, you know, and I will say this: a lot of the frustration from people watching on TV, you know, almost the same reason why people slow down at a train at a traffic wreck, a traffic accident. They crane their necks and you know they give themselves whiplash trying to looky-loo and see, and it screws up traffic like crazy, especially in Los Angeles at any fender bender, because I guess you could always see Miley Cyrus getting a fender bender. You snap a few pictures as she's bending the right direction, and you can sell it for TMZ for a few $1,000s. So it's a weird place out here with every fender bender. But, you know, a lot of the nation watched, you know, not like a car wreck just to see what was going to happen, though. You know, and they're watching liquor stores get robbed, wig stores get robbed, McDonald's getting smashed in, set on fire, cell phone places getting destroyed, Little Caesars, an auto parts store. It's just like, you know, none of it makes sense. But I will say this: maybe leaving Michael Brown's body in the street uncovered for 4 hours was maybe a bad idea. That part of the story doesn't really. You know, okay, you're still investigating. Put a tarp up or cover or some sort of barricade where you can't see in while you're investigating a crime scene and block off the perimeter. My understanding is that they just left him out there in a pool of blood for 4 hours. Is that still your understanding of how that played out?
Yeah, I've heard that, and you could definitely say that's inappropriate. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a crime scene investigator. I don't know how they got to draw that up. It's a big deal when you've got a cop killing a young man. They have to, you know, do everything. So I don't know what the proper procedure there, what is there, or what they violated, if anything, or if that was disrespect. I can't really comment on that. I don't have enough. You know, I wouldn't be the guy to be able to answer something like that. I don't know what the standard procedure is, but you know, if it's bad, it's bad, and everything that needs to, you know, whatever is bad needs to be called out if that's the case. But
well, I got another case of something bad here. Twitter users calling for retribution after New York Times reporters Julie Bossman and Campbell Robertson published the name of the police officer Darren Wilson's residential street. The reporters even helpfully noted that the suburb lies about a half-hour drive from Ferguson, where protests are currently taking place. The Daily Caller has chosen not to link to the article. Frankie says there's two scum reporters who gave out Wilson's address to the public. These two live in New York. What if we put in their addresses out there? Like, that's really... What are your thoughts on that one, Blake? Because you remember Spike Lee did the same for who he thought was George Zimmerman.
Horribly stupid and irresponsible, and it also happened in New York when there was that county that decided to publish all of the local gun owners.
That's right, yeah.
And then somebody's fought back and published the names of all the editors or the people that worked at that paper that published those names, and they got a little taste of their own medicine too. So yeah, very stupid thing to do. And it's very dangerous. And they did not. Again, it's so sad, Brian. It's probably the most, pathetic part of this whole thing is that the people, all they had to do was look at the evidence. Why didn't they just look at the evidence? Why did they just have this? It's just like they had this story that they just wanted to believe so bad, and they would not challenge that information. They just assumed that it had to be true, and then it all crumbles away at just looking at the very surface evidence. It wasn't really that complicated of a story. I mean, I don't get why it had to get to this level. How do we, as the public is getting duped like that, and even people that are, you expect to know better, that are smarter than that are better than that, and they still fell for it. So, it's definitely something we'll be talking about for years. Hopefully we learn a lesson from this. There's something to be gained on this, and hopefully that you can also maybe get some positives out of this, and not just have a terrible tragedy, but something that we can build on, and hopefully, Ferguson can grow from this as well. I just don't know when this whole story dies down, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. You gotta wonder though, because you have the Al Sharpton up there along with the Brown family lawyer, and out of one side of their mouth they're calling for peace, and on the flip side, the dad is
calling for justice. Oh, that guy, yeah, that guy.
Wearing there's two different guys. The
Yep.
father wearing the no justice, no peace. What's the opposite of peace? That would be
the
war.
father put out a good clip calling for for peace.
Oh sure, no,
doing
I'm just
anything.
saying.
Yeah,
but he's also wearing a no justice, no peace. The opposite of peace is violence. You can't really talk out of both sides of your mouth that way. Now
perhaps it depends on what it's done afterwards. Because justice was done. And I think that was definitely my top story of the day. Is excellent from Matt Walsh, saying, yes, hey, Ferguson protesters, justice has been done, but you never wanted justice. And it kind of touches at the heart of a lot of the things.
Make sure you tweet that one over to us. I don't know that we've sent that one out. We might have. It's been kind of fast and furious over here. Sorry, Eric Holder. No, but you wonder if any perjury charges will be brought up on the people that were lying about their testimony. Especially the accomplice to that robbery that was walking with him in the middle of the street. That kid probably could have spoken up and saved this country a lot of problems, and just told the story instead of making a story up. Hands up, don't shoot. He was running away, or he was facing the other direction. He was executed. He was shot from behind. None of the autopsies showed that he was shot from behind. So that's just not the case. And then you have Michael Brown's stepfather. The mother's obviously in pain, and she thinks that this officer is just a monster for killing her baby. And I can understand a parent's grief losing a child. If I was confronted with video evidence and toxicology evidence and forensic evidence and witness testimony and common sense, and seeing that my kid actually did a whole bunch of bad stuff, which really you brought your own death upon yourself, at some point I would just ask for some quiet time, for some peace. I need time to grieve my son's loss, and I would stop fighting for him. Not once again, not the 7-year-old on her swing set that gets shot down by random drug violence, some random gang violence in the street. But here you have. I want to play this for you because this really bugged me when I heard it, and it should bug all of you. This is this man. You know what? I'm just gonna reload this page because it's loading really janky and choppy. And I think the player crashed. I did have it all pulled up exactly to where I wanted it to go. Yeah, but I'll tell you what. I just want to play it and then get your reaction. That's the fun of radio. But no, I'll get this going here. But what about, did you see that one? The rapper, what was it, who said she's going to kill all the crackers in their sleep and has hatred for all straight white men? Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did see that, but she's just so stupid. It's not even. I didn't even get into that. The ignorance is just frightening. So I didn't even want to touch that one. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to skip forward on this a little bit because the first part.
Dropbox.
Yeah. Okay. There's the mandatory commercial. But I'm going to skip forward on this because the first part is the mother reacting, and she's just, she's having a really tough time. But as you move forward in the video, well, I'll just let it speak for itself. This is Mike Brown's stepfather. I'll tell you when it's him, because people are getting more mad. Give me the mic, burn this bitch down, burn this bitch down, burn this bitch down. This is the definition of inciting a riot. A riot occurred. Will there be charges? Will there be? You can see this crowd get angrier, and you can hear them get angrier, and then you can look at the footage from within the hour. Multiple cars on fire, multiple businesses on fire, shots being fired at firefighters as they arrive on the scenes. Will he be charged? Should he be charged with inciting a riot?
Man, I don't want to go there, but it depends on how much damage they think that this guy could have potentially caused. Certainly that was horribly dangerous. Yeah, the guy's got a criminal record. He's not such a good guy. And you saw a little taste of that, and you maybe wonder if that is kind of the reason that, well, I don't think they've been married that long to his mom, but you kind of wonder what kind of background this Brown guy came from, and that's certainly a shame. Certainly doesn't look like a very good role model this guy was, and that was certainly a lot of dangerous language from somebody that people in the crowd were probably looking up to as one of the leaders, I suppose, because that was of his affiliation with Michael Brown. So I don't exactly know what role because I wasn't there on the ground, but if they can, if they think that he's one of the people that's caused any kind of rioting or damage, then yeah, I guess he could be persecuted. As far as the friend goes, I don't really know if he's worth even going after for perjury charges. But what the stepdad did, if they can pin something on him, that could potentially come back to haunt him. But he did get publicly shamed with that video as well.
Yeah, this guy Head. Not McSpadden. What's the name here? Head. I gotta keep scrolling. Where the heck is his? Lewis Head. Yeah. Felony count. Pled guilty. Remanded to state prison. Marijuana distribution.
Narcotics trafficking.
Probation. Yeah. Oh yeah, 2 felony narcotics convictions. Okay, thank you. I somehow skipped over that. All right. No, but I mean, on the flip side now, let's move past Darren Wilson and Mike Brown and. Wait, but before we do, though, I mean, what do you make of Darren Wilson who can't have a normal life now? I mean, what are we supposed to make of this? In this country where Mike Vick is a professional quarterback in the NFL after all the horrible stuff he did. He killed a dog, not a person. Well, the dog wasn't trying to kill him at the time. It wasn't self-defense. Anyway, whatever the point there was. In a place where you're supposed to get second chances.
Right.
Darren Wilson didn't do anything wrong. What is he supposed to do the rest of his life? And George Zimmerman, what are these people supposed to do?
Yeah, I think George Zimmerman was a much more questionable character, and there's a lot of other cases of, bad cops that have done bad things that, they have to leave. Look at that Albuquerque guy that shot that homeless man is going to be eligible for like 70% retirement benefits for life.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I tweeted that story.
What about the one where they were doing the body cavity searches on motorists?
Oh, yeah, I don't know if anything else has come up. I know they got a big settlement.
Yeah, there
out of
was.
that, but I don't know what happened to the people
because we don't want to
involved.
see a police abuse anywhere.
Right, and so, but Darren Wilson appears that he, was caught in a terrible, tough incident, and is going to be scarred for life from this. And he's probably not going to be. He's going to be recognized now. So I don't know what he does. So
I almost
feel really bad for him. Yeah,
you almost have to get the police union together of the entire United States. do like a one-time, I don't know, $100 union stipend or something. And just give this guy a couple of, $10 million and just say, look, you got to go. You got to find a nice little place to live abroad. Here's some traveling money. This will cover your insurance for, till you're 95 years old. You can have health care and just have a life. But you got to go, man. You can never be, this guy dedicated his life to protecting and serving the community. This community didn't even give a damn enough to not let burn down, and then when they came to put out the fires, they were taking shots at him. It's like, okay, you want to destroy, you want to pee in your own swimming pool? Go ahead, we're leaving. You guys swim in it. I don't have to. Like, I'm out of here. But Darren Wilson at this point, like, he's got to go. What other option does this guy have at this point?
That's a good question, Brian. I really don't know what Darren Wilson is going to do, because he's still also, you got to realize that a lot of the country still, hates his guts, even though, of course, as I've said, they haven't looked at the evidence. And so they have this, they've already prejudged him, and you don't know if you can rationalize with them until the facts eventually settle in. So, it's a good question, Brian. We'll just have to wait and see. I mean, it's going to take a while for him for this to leave the public consciousness, and that could take months, if not years. And so, we will. Your guess is as good as mine.
Well, to wrap this up here, the police state. This is something. Has Ferguson been a dry run for an impending police state? And add to the fact that, hell, I live here in California, and I'm seeing that they're trying to ban that any handgun you have has to stay locked up at all times. Well, great. And all vehicles have to have all their wheels stored in the carport. All the wheels have to be in the garage. You can only put the wheels on when you want to drive your car. Like that's so insane to me. I mean, I guess moving forward, the Second Amendment carry rights for people to have their own self-defense. You saw in Minnesota, your home state, somebody's car got surrounded by protesters in the middle of the street. Once again, this is a damn recurring theme. By the way, one more time, you have the right to peaceably assemble to petition the government for a redress of grievances. You do not have the right to block traffic. You do not have the right. That's not civil disobedience. That's being an asshole, and you should be arrested for it. Seriously, like, there's a difference between saying this is not right and I'm going to chant and I want attention for this. Like, getting attention by breaking another law and bothering other people is not the way to do it. But I mean, I guess from our right to self-defense, where this person stuck in the car just had to started moving the car and had to run over somebody. They were freaking out and fearing for their life. And that's the thing, these riots could happen anywhere, and we all have the right to self-defense, but, a lot of people made it known that this police state, this growing police state on our streets, I mean, the military reaction, the National Guard and Ferguson and all the law enforcement officers kind of made it look like an occupying force in a foreign nation, but this was our own people turned on our own people, and everybody was getting ready to fight each other. I mean, what do you make of that whole topic of the police state in general, Blake?
Well, I think that at the time, you got to look at find the silver linings. You got to find the positives for, what happened with Michael Brown, the tragedy. And I think that it's, in a way, it could be one of them, is it forced us around the nation to take notice at the overwhelming police brutality that happened right in the beginning when the case became known. There were those first protests, and we saw the police, what they were doing, pointing guns at people and tear gas and saying it was just smoke and lying, and there was some really bad things, and the MRAP tanks and the sound cannons, and there was some bad stuff, and it forced even Washington and a big national story and everybody to go, hey, has this gone too far? Why do we have these? Why do the police departments have these kind of vehicles? Why are we doing this to our own citizens? I mean, even people in other countries, and even oppressive countries like China were criticizing, the use of military equipment on the people and the police to have that kind of stuff. So
yeah, go figure. And one of those iconic photos, it says "Season's Greetings" while everything's burning and on fire. And,
right.
And, I saw the one protest, one of the videos from above in a helicopter, and there was one guy standing out there, like stopping the MRAPs from moving. Standing in the street like in Tiananmen Square. If we want to,
right.
if we're gonna take our human rights pointers from China or from Russia, I think we're in a dangerous place, Blake, if that's what it's devolved into.
Right.
So I mean, so what's your takeaway with the police state then? With all the national conversation, where do you fall on that?
Well, that's what I mean. People are now aware of it that weren't before. We've been talking about these subjects for a long time, but a lot of people didn't know how bad it was until they actually got to see it in action. In Ferguson, we got a chance to see that on the national stage. So now we know about it, and now we're prepared for it. But the problem with this whole case the whole time has been it's the wrong cause. So you can't really get behind the movement there. I know that there's maybe a sub movement that's there talking about those sorts of things, and I know you were talking about Dan Johnson from Panda has been one of those guys who's been talking about this as a time to discuss things rather than focus on just the actual police shooting in general. So I don't know. Again, that's where you got to find your silver linings to at least we have the conversation, and we'll see if it's forced the people to back down and be aware. Like why is our town having this kind of stuff? What are they doing? So take the good with the bad. I don't know.
Well, we'll see in the coming days, and as it's Thanksgiving. Can we all just take a break now? Can we all just take a breath and think of the ones that we do still have with us, and try to figure out how we make? I don't know. Just we have some people with us. What do we do? What are we thankful for? Not what are we angry for? What are we thankful for? Let's just do that. It's Thanksgiving. Give thanks. I think it's a great time for this, one of my favorite holidays of all time. It's a great time to give thanks right now, and really, I'm very frustrated that this whole thing played out the way it did. I'm very happy that with all of the preponderance of, just with the huge quantity of information and data that we got from that grand jury, essentially having a trial. It just said, no, there's not enough here to go to trial. And these are the 2,000 reasons why there's no trial here. I do pray for their family, regardless of, who's been arrested for what and which family members going after what other family members, stealing merchandise, and, who's inciting a riot. Look, just right now, what do we do right now? What do we do right now is we pray for each other. We say, meditate on it, take a deep breath, and give some thanks, and kind of regroup next week. Let's just take a minute and give thanks to the things we love. But Blake, what I'm going to give thanks for is that you had the time to join us here on Agree to Disagree here at the New American Media. About 20 seconds. Tell us where they can stay connected with you as they move forward.
Right now, the easiest place, the best place would just be on Twitter. Follow me, Eccentric99.
All right, perfect. Well, do that, everybody. Follow him at Eccentric99. And
thank you, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll do this again, And for all of you out there that have not checked out our homepage, that's thenewamericanmedia.com. If you have not had the chance, go over there on the middle right-hand side. The TNAM radio link is where you listen to our show live. Underneath that is our Twitter feed at American_media_. Make sure that you follow us. Underneath that is our Facebook. Search The New American Media with spaces in between and like the page. It's right there. And subscribe, youtube.com/The New American Media. Seriously, prayers to everybody involved, safety to every major city. Let's give thanks, send love, and I love every one of you. Thank you so much, and peace.
Your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.